of Park German China and Climate and Energy Partnership, GIZ. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. We have been joined by Ms. Maria Pode. She's the country director of GIZ. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. We will be shortly joining by Dr. Sadar Mozum, who is the managing director of National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority. We also been joined by Mr. Muhammad Abdul Alim, who is the Secretary General OICCI. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We will be joining online Mr. Fauzul Azim, who is the Corporate Sustainability and Chemical Management GM at Interloop Limited. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We also been joined by Mr. Abu Bakr Ismail, who is the Head of Energy and Sustainability Amreli Steel. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And we also been joined by Dr. Nabil, who is the Head of Compliances, Ministry of Commerce, Government of Pakistan. Thank you, sir, for joining us. So before I start the proceeding and formally invite Ms. Sobia Becker for the welcome remarks, I would have a brief a picture of why we started this dialogue, policy dialogue, and what we are looking for in it. So the European Union Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, a central part of the Fit for 55 strategy, represents a landmark shift in environmental trade policy. Designed to reduce emissions within EU borders, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism requires that the import goods must meet the quality assurance as that of domestically produced substances in EU countries. While CBAM serves as a mechanism to prevent carbon leakage, it is also a transformative step towards decarbonization in global trade. This transition aims to reinforce the EU's climate objectives without compromising fair competition or diminishing emissions reductions efforts worldwide. For the case of Pakistan, a significant exporter to EU, CBAM poses both pressing challenges as well as the promising opportunities. Currently, many of our Pakistani industries operate with higher emission intensities than European counterparts. Complying with CBAM standards will demand significant investments in emission reduction technologies, monitoring system, and regulatory adjustment for SMEs, which are the backbone of the Pakistan industrial sector. The financial burden of meeting CBAM certification and emission reporting standards could be substantial. So in the case of Pakistan, there are a lot of opportunities as well as challenges for the industrial sector to decarbonize, especially when we're talking about the CBAM. So for this dialogue, we looking for understanding the CBAM requirements, its integration, its readiness, industrial readiness, and emission intensity, and support mechanism. What sort of support mechanism government should provide or the industrial sector should need, and also finally we need the policy recommendations in that. So for this. I'm officially starting the proceeding. I would request for the welcoming remarks to Ms. Sobia Becker, Advisor, Park German Climate and Energy Partnership. Ma'am, please join the podium.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's German Development Cooperation's pleasure to co-host this very important event this morning on industrial decarbonization and implications for future export competitiveness of Pakistani industry. And it is a pleasure to welcome you all this morning. Some of the friends in the audience today might not be fully aware of the Pakistan-German Climate and Energy Partnership, so I'd just like to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about what we are doing and the areas that we're looking at. The Pak-German Climate and Energy Partnership, as the name suggests, is a bilateral collaboration between the governments of Germany and Pakistan, and this was established at COP26. Pakistan is the first country where Germany entered into such a bilateral partnership, with the idea being that Germany is going to facilitate Pakistan in meeting not just its Paris goals, but also its sustainable development goals. And how do we do this? Via 26 projects on technical as well as financial cooperation that are being delivered primarily in the KP and the Punjab. We work with national partners at the federal level as well as the subnational level. And these programs of development cooperation are technical assistance programs as well as financial cooperation as well. So at the present time, Germany's bilateral investments in this country exceed 500 million euros, and this is a combination of technical cooperation, grants, and concessional finance being implemented by the GIZ and by the German Development Bank, the KfW, on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. So that's a little bit about who we are and what is our interest. So clearly, climate is going to be is already a defining challenge for all of us in different spheres. When you look at the NDCs and when you look at how emissions have been growing in this country, then Pakistan is actually on a high emissions growth trajectory. And if you were to look closely at the NDCs, then you know that there are 5 main sectors. Industry is one part of them. And with 2015 as a baseline, if you look at the emissions growth trajectory, then industrial emissions are going to grow by approximately almost 400% till 2030. So there's a very real reason to take affirmative climate action, both from a policy perspective as well as from a practice perspective. And practice is where industry comes in. How do we help industries maintain or get onto a clean green trajectory? We have 3 approaches for doing that. The first approach is obviously policy dialogue. And we engage with our political partners, primarily being the Ministry of Climate Change. And thank you, Zulfikar Saab, for joining us this morning. We work with other ministries that are then directly involved in the initiatives that we have ongoing. But we also work very closely with the private sector and other relevant stakeholders like think tanks, academia, because we believe that a strong tripartite arrangement is important to incubate, innovate, and then illustrate, to really be able to demonstrate what it is that we're doing. Industrial decarbonization is critically important. Saleha has done a wonderful job of setting out the context for our deliberations this morning. But just to give you an overview, we're approaching industrial decarbonization from 2 different aspects. Aspect number 1, leaving aside the policy aspects that I just mentioned, but aspect number 1 is ensuring that industries get clean energy from the national grid. So we have a number of projects and a very new project coming up on the digitalization and decarbonization of the grid. This helps industries get access to cleaner energy, which obviously will lower their Scope 1 emissions, so reducing their carbon footprint. Then we have a number of energy sector initiatives that are being implemented by the KfW, and these relate to renewables. So getting more renewables and helping the government of Pakistan meet its renewable energy targets that it set forth. And then finally, with the work that we're doing with textiles, we are making sure that we're making textiles future fit to be able to deal with the requirements of the carbon border adjustment mechanism. And not just that, but to look at the entire supply chain of how we're doing business, what are the mechanisms we're using, but also making sure that there is an aspect of a just transition. So skilling up, ensuring that there's equal opportunity, there's a just transition in terms of rights and opportunities, etc. So we cover the full spectrum. But let me not take more time away from the very exciting deliberations and the very talented speakers that we have with us. And with that, I'd like to conclude my welcome to you. Thank you very much. And
thank you so much, Ms. Sobia, and very rightly said that we need to enhance our nationally determined contributions for the right reporting, especially scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. And when we are about to enter into the COP, from Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, we have joined by Mr. Zulfikar Yunus, who is the Additional Secretary, and also we have representation from Energy Ministry as well, Dr. Sardar Mozam. So we are also exploring in this dialogue about what we are hoping and what we are suggesting for the COP, that what we are taking from Pakistan. So from this, now I would request Ms. Maria Podey for the keynote address. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everybody, distinguished guests, esteemed partners, dear Mr. Zulfikar, and participants. So please let me begin by congratulating Dr. Abid Suleri and his wonderful team for the successful organization of the 27th Sustainable Development Conference and the second Sustainable Investment Expo. So some of you might know that I arrived only 3 months ago to Islamabad, so I'm happy to be here, and I'm deeply impressed by the conference, the people, the topic, and the exchange of ideas. So yesterday I've been here also for the closing remarks about financial inclusion of women, and happy to be here again this morning. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you today among policymakers, researchers, and industry leaders and other key stakeholders to discuss this very important topic on carbon border adjustment mechanism, CBAM, as an opportunity for industrial decarbonization in Pakistan. So as we all know, industries are the backbone of Pakistan's economy. However, they are also a significant contributor to country's GHG emission. With Pakistan's emission reduction targets and international climate commitments, decarbonizing the industrial sector is imperative. And this is not only for meeting the nationally determined contribution, the NDCs, but also for driving sustainable economic growth in the context of the emergent carbon border adjustment. So we know that energy is shifting from being just a cost factor to a key pillar of sustainability. This shift underscores the challenges of fossil fuels depletion and consequently the urgency to address climate change. A key aspect of this transition is not only about replacing fossil fuels with renewable energy sources, but also restructuring the entire landscape to be a more inclusive, efficient, and resilient. Take, for instance, the textile sector. We've been talking about the textile sector this morning, which accounts for approximately 60% of Pakistan exports. But it also heavily relies on fossil fuels, which makes it non-compliant with the global sustainability regime and, as a result, making it uncompetitive. So with increasing regulation on GHG reporting and the introduction of carbon pricing in the European Union, Pakistani industry, especially textiles, need to strengthen its capacity to comply with global standards for carbon neutrality and sustainability to ensure competitiveness in international markets while driving a transition to a low-carbon economy. As Obia was mentioning, Germany is committed to supporting Pakistan in navigating these challenges, particularly in building the capacity of Pakistani industry to comply with international regulations as CBAM. The German Development Corporation is enhancing sustainability in the textile sector by partnering with over 100 factories to ensure environmental standards. This initiative aims to boost export competitiveness by aligning production practices with global standards. You might know that our Minister of the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, Mrs. Schulze, came to Pakistan in August. It was her first visit to Pakistan. It has been a very successful visit, and she also launched the Responsible Business Help Desk in partnership with the Federation of the Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industry and GIZ. So the idea is to strengthen environmental due diligence in textile supply chains. The Responsible Business Help supports large, medium, and small companies in reducing their carbon footprint with circular economy approaches, as well as encouraging a shift away from fossil fuels in an effort to become a compliant with global climate and sustainable regimes. So I'm looking forward to our discussion, to inputs and ideas from participants, and also to have a meaningful exchange, not only about ideas, but also the way forward and how we can implement those ideas. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ms. Maria Porde. Now I would officially start the panel discussion. So for this, I would first request Mr. Fauzal Azim. He's online. Can you hear us, sir? Yeah. He's the General Manager of Corporate Sustainability and Chemical Management at Interloop Limited. Sir, given the Interloop role in sustainability, especially when we're talking about the textile sector, so how do you see the integration of CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, in the textile sector broadly for the Pakistan case? And how do you see this integration in the operations of the textile sector? Yeah, sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope I am audible. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for this debate. And I think as a representative of textile manufacturing facilities, again, CBAM is definitely a new thing for us, in terms that we do understand the basic requirements of the CBAM, but the exact implementations, definitely we need further details. We do understand that at this moment, textile is not in the priority industries, because it's more like the fertilizer, cement, and the metal industry, along with the hydrogen industry as well. But definitely the mechanism of the CBAM is the first step that we need to establish is the carbon accounting. So definitely once, because we need to transfer the carbon credits along with the products. So definitely the first thing, and maybe that is also the challenging thing that we foresee, that we must have a proper mechanism for the carbon accounting in the textile supply chain. The complex thing, I think, in CBAM is it's not the carbon accounting of the manufacturers, the tier 1 manufacturers. Definitely, we need to engage all the tiers from tier 1. In textile, normally we have 5 tiers till the form level. So until and unless we don't have the visibility of the carbon footprints along all the tiers of the supply chain, definitely it would be a difficult to complete the carbon number at the end that is associated with the product. So I think this is something we need to understand in terms of the requirements of the CBAM. And definitely, we need to establish a whole mechanism behind. There are a lot many challenges for the carbon accounting itself, because Interloop itself is this science-based target initiative. We already have set the science-based targets. And we do understand what are the complexities within the boundary lines of the company, as well as in the supply chain. So in my perspective, as an initial comment, I think a complete carbon accounting mechanism is something that we need to establish. Definitely that need to be regularized, because when you have to declare something on the carbon side, that must be duly verified by the third party as well, just to make the authenticity and the transparency into it. So this is my comment on this CBAM and the challenges with industries.
Thank you so much. We'll come to you again for the further suggestions and recommendations. Now I would request Mr. Abu Bakr Ismail, who is heading the sustainability initiatives at Amreli Steel. Sir, what sort of steel sector has different challenges and different way forward in Pakistan. So how do you see if you're comparing the steel sector with the globally when the CBAM comes in, how do you see the Pakistan industries would pitch it in, and how you see that when the sector is facing challenges of operational challenges and energy costs. So how do you see that CBAM would act on it? Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. So I think CBAM for Pakistan steel sector will create an opportunity for export. So first I will give some background that Pakistan is not exporting any steel or metals from here, but especially aluminum and steel. So because the Chinese and Indians have, with respect to economies of scale, you cannot beat them in price. But when CBAMs come in, so there will be approximately $250 to $275 per ton of CBAM tax will be implemented on the primary steel making. So for the audience, I can also explain there are two processes. One is primary steel making, that is from ore, and basically India and China is mostly making from them and export it. And the second is secondary steel making, that is from scrap. And in Pakistan, all private industry is making steel from secondary process from the scrap. So already with respect to carbon footprint, the secondary steel making is having less than half of carbon footprint with respect to primary steel making. So in the future, if you see the SBTI goals as well, so they are also focusing that the steel industry has to move from primary to secondary to save carbon emissions. So what we are seeing that once this CBAM tax is implemented, and there are certain reports on trade change as well, that there will be some changes will happen in global trade when this CBAM will happen, and the tax will implemented on the primary steel making, especially on India and China. And then this opportunity will kick in within Pakistan, that we can export, because you are already making from recycling, the infrastructure is there. The main thing is obviously the input cost. The main challenge what we are seeing, that we have to decarbonize or add renewables almost 70% to 80% in your energy mix. So your scope 2 emissions will be controlled, and this CBAM tax will be almost, you can say, almost it's $700 per ton the cost. If you can make it around $700, then you can start exporting from here. So this can be opportunity for Pakistan, but I think the policy makers have to kick in and make some plan with respect to industries, that how this CBAM can be leveraged in. And in the next 3 years, we can make a plan that from Pakistan, we can export steel to EU. And what are the mechanisms that can be given, or you can say a subsidized finance or climate finance to given to the different industries to install renewables or different mechanisms. We have charted down some mechanism internally that how we can do in next 3 years if the things goes in positive way. So I will start from here. Let's see how things goes on. Thank you from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Abu Bakr Saab. And definitely in Pakistan, the steel sector is utilizing the secondary steel making process, and let's have a better opportunities further. So now moving on, I would request Mr. Abdul Aleem Saab. So in the light of OICCI proactive stance at COP28, and now you're heading towards the COP29 for the sustainable development, what are the insights can you share on the role of private sector of Pakistan in meeting like decarbonization and like standards like CBAM?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, is working?
Yeah.
ठीक है नहीं चले आगे पीछे is okay. Otherwise, my time will be spent going in and out. So anyway, Assalamu alaikum ji. First of all, thank you very much to SDPI for arranging this event and giving us the opportunity. Let me take 1 minute to give you why I'm here. I represent the Overseas Investor Chamber of Commerce, which is the body of 210 foreign investors. About half of them are European. So therefore, I have some reason to be here. But these are the companies who have invested in Pakistan, and they are the largest group of investors in Pakistan, not only in terms of investment, but in terms of contribution, taxes and all the others. In terms of climate change and the impact of the subject that we are going to discuss, OICCI has been leading the thought process on the climate issues. And since 2022, we have been organizing climate conference every year. And we have been part of the COP, thanks to Ministry of Climate Change in the COP 28. And inshallah, we will be participating in COP 29 as well. Coming to this subject of CBAM. CBAM, as has been explained, I think is right now in the testing phase. It will be implemented in partially from 26, and it will be fully operational for as far as all the industries are concerned from 2030. So in terms of the impact that we see, I think what we have been doing is that I think, as mentioned by two of your very valuable members from textile and steel industry, Pakistan's export right now, I mean, as you know, right now, the CBAM is restricted to 9 industries, which is none of them include textile at this stage. Steel is there, but Pakistan is not a big exporter. So the risk right now is on the textile. And I think that is the reason that we have this session. And I think the work is being done. From my knowledge, I think Aptima is also doing some good work on thinking on this. Rice is something I'm not sure that what has been done, but rice is another item which will be exposed in the time to come. And therefore, we hope that there should be some initiative taken from all the relevant authorities to make sure that we do not get surprised when in terms of when our exports are about to be subjected to the test, CBAM test. What we are recommending is that we have been trying to help. We are not big in export. So it doesn't directly affect. But as I said, as a thought leader, we would like to, and we are a key player in the economy of this country. So what we have been doing is that we have been conducting, with the help of UNDP, with the help of various other organizations who are interested in this, the process to educate people, our members as well as those who are interested. And we have been doing sessions on green financing, on CBAM. We will be doing something soon. I think right now our interest is that the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan has already issued some guidelines on sustainable reporting. And therefore, that we would like, it's not mandatory right now, it's optional, but that is a good opportunity for people to understand what is coming and how do you, because what is CBAM challenge right now? Not many people in this country understand how do you account for the net zero, how do you account for the process, the entire process. And therefore, there is need for people to be educated on this. And we will be working not only with the SCCP and other organizations. We would like to also participate and educate, although it doesn't affect directly us, but certainly in the large interest of the country. We would like to make sure that between the time now and the time when it really hurts us, we are able to not only understand the accounting process, as many other countries are right now already doing, but also to make sure that our industries particularly the key sectors that we have mentioned about. Steel is a surprise to me because whether we will be able to export steel or not, but certainly at this stage, if you see the landscape, I think the immediate two challenges are basically for the textile and rice that we see. In terms of what we can do, I think we because we have access to top multinationals who are operating in Pakistan and who have their headquarters. So we have this ability to bring in the expertise from overseas on this, and not only in physical form, but in like online and all those. So therefore, we can help in transforming the technology from overseas much faster. As I mentioned, if you go on the on this CBAM and EU websites, you will find that not many countries have already started measuring, initiating the process. We haven't, and we would like to help from OICCI platform and any other platform to make sure that how can this transfer of technology can take place, how can you we can make our export sectors. As I said, AFTMA is doing a great job in initiating on this subject because it will impact the country. So we would like to play our part in making sure that this doesn't come as a surprise. The country is ready for it much before then it hits us. So with this, I'll hold on, but if there are any questions, I'll be ready to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting such initiatives and such targets you have. Now I would request Mr. Zulfikar Yunus. Sir, we are belonging from Ministry of Climate Change and we are heading towards the COP. So the COP agenda is right now is updated NDCs and also the climate finance. For looking from this lens that right now the NDCs lacks the decarbonization plan. So what we are hoping from the Ministry of Climate Change that we are pitching for the COP and what's our like proposing strategies for that. Yeah, over to you. Yeah, sure. Please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My apologies, first of all, to actually jump the queue because I have to attend another meeting, so I have to go there. And thank you for the organizers to allow me to speak a little earlier. So first of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. Let me start thanking SDPI, especially Abid Suleri Saab, Executive Director SDPI, for organizing such a wonderful and informative conference. They call it a mini Davos for Pakistan. So I think I have attended few of the sessions. It's been wonderful. And today's session also, especially on CBAM, because as we know, CBAM is a clear and present danger for us, for our export industry especially. This is CBAM now is linked with Europe, but then we are expecting that similar restrictions will be coming from other exporting countries, our export destinations. So it's high time that Pakistan do something to prepare for, effectively prepare for the CBAM. And in that context, I'll come to the COP a little later, but for the time being, I'll just focus on CBAM and what Climate Change Ministry is doing to prepare ourselves for the CBAM. So first of all, we are preparing a comprehensive plan with Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Industries, Energy Ministry, and also provincial relevant departments. And the sectors which are expected to be, from 1st January 2026, which will be part of the CBAM. And we plan to finalize our preparation for the CBAM by first quarter of 2025. And we would like to then the subsequent 3 quarters to implement that plan. So that is what we have now chalked out. And we will be consulting all the sectors, iron and steel, cement, aluminium, and then later on, because, in textile also, some of the aluminum or iron and steel parts are used. So zippers or buttons or some other parts. So maybe we have to look at the whole CBAM, concept from those point of view as well. So that is for CBAM we are trying, and I'm really thankful for the organizers of this workshop that this is a very timely session to prepare for that. I think this could be a food for thought. This will give us food for thought to prepare our strategy more comprehensively. Coming to COP, so the Minister of Climate Change, we are preparing for the COP with almost it was just mentioned that it's more of a finance COP. So we are preparing with that focus, and on the 12th of November, Prime Minister will be hosting a high-level roundtable on climate finance, where we have invited heads of the states, where we would like to basically think through how to effectively portray developing countries' view for effectively accessing, scaling up, and easing the access to climate finance. So that is our primary focus of that roundtable, which is high level, and we will accordingly, all the negotiating teams from these least developing countries, like-minded developing countries, SIDS, and G77, we will be all strategizing at how to pitch for the COP29 for the negotiation. Besides that, we have also chalked out, CBAM is also related to decarbonization and also carbon tax and carbon credits. So we have finalized our carbon policy, and we will be launching our carbon policy at COP29. Rather, we have a half-day session on carbon policy, and we have very distinguished panelists, and we will be launching almost 8 to 10 bankable carbon projects at the COP29, where we are expecting over $100 million, projects pipeline that will be showcasing at the COP29. And we have invited in the panel Trafigura's, chief carbon, buying head. We have invited Norfund, which is a $1 billion Norway's fund. So CEO of Norfund will be invited. And then we have so many other, distinguished carbon market experts and investors, which will be invited at that. And we are also hosting a panel discussion with the Climate Vulnerable Forum on carbon markets and how it will go, especially VCM, a voluntary carbon market. The first session that we will be having at COP would be on compliance market, and the second would be on the voluntary carbon markets. And we are also now we are working on the rules and regulations for carbon market. And so we are actively, encouraging our industry and our entrepreneurs to come up with the bankable projects on carbon markets, and carbon credit, is a huge and next big thing that will be happening to Pakistan in the next few years. So we want that the industry should be ready for that opportunity. And in the ministry also, we are also creating a small technical resource to help our private sector to work on bankable projects, and also, look for investments, private sector investments, because as you know, the JEF and GCF, these two main entities of UNFCCC, which were mandated to support climate-related interventions by funding those interventions, they are now focusing more and more on not grants, but more on private financing. So we would like to actually, take that opportunity, seize that opportunity, and try to leverage those opportunities available in private sector. So all in all, to make ourselves, more ready, and also to make sure that we are responsible, we will be launching our climate dashboard as well, where we would be preparing and also making available all the climate related inflows and how those inflows will be utilized the outflows also on climate projects. So that we are also making sure in order to ensure transparency and in order to ensure, access to information for all. We have also prepared our national climate finance strategy, and we will be sharing that at the COP29 on one of the sessions at COP. The climate finance strategy, again, we have prepared a very elaborate implementing process whereby we have engaged the key ministries from the federal government like finance, planning, EAD, energy, or other relevant ministries, and then the provincial departments who are related to implementation of the climate finance strategy. The purpose of climate finance strategy is to access the climate finance available with a more systematic and a planned way. And for that, we will be setting up an implementing committee and also a small unit in the climate change ministry. Because the apex body to oversee and give oversight on climate matters in Pakistan is the Pakistan Climate Change Council, which is headed by the Prime Minister, and Climate Change Ministry is the secretariat of that council. So we are proposing a biannual review of the implementation of climate finance strategy so that, the interventions that will be planned in the climate finance strategy are effectively implemented. So all in all, we are making all out effort. And for those, let me also thank GIZ. Sobia is here. They have been very actively helping us. UNDP, World Bank, ADB, even Lucas is here from Canadian High Commission. Government of Canada is also helping us. And also so many other international development partners has been helping us in one way or the other. So we hope that, together and with the help of our private sector, we will be able to effectively tackle the tsunami, which is called CBAM, may hit on 1st January 2026 to us. So we'll be able to, we'll be well prepared to face that and to tackle those issues, and our exporters and our industry will also be ready. So I think together we can all hopefully make this transition and easy for our exporters, and also rather an opportunity to bring more foreign exchange through enhanced exports. So if we, as they say that in MBA is the first mover advantage. So if we are ready, I think we'll be able to get better prospects for exports. So I think with these words, I would once again now like to thank the organizers of this session and this overall, this conference on pre-COP. And I wish all the participants best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you so Well, thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the climate change role, especially when COP is around, and also you're showcasing the bankable carbon market projects in the COP, and also highlighting the climate finance strategies from Pakistan side as well. Now, I would request Dr. Sardar Mohazam, who is the Managing Director of National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority. Sir, given NECA's recent green hydrogen study and the potential identified, what specific policies or partnership NECA is considering in making hydrogen a viable option for the industrial decarbonization in Pakistan? And also, how could you see these standards like CBAM for the compliance of this integration? Yeah, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't come to the rostrum for some reasons, and it's good to sort of talking to all the participants. I think it's a very interesting aspect that whenever we are talking about some of these initiatives, and especially when it comes to CBAM, and then looking at and going back into like what can be the options, especially when it comes to the fuel source, that how we are going to decouple or decarbonize our whole industrial sector. When with this fuel source, can we do the decoupling or decarbonizing the sectors, and especially that affects our exports? I think primarily if I just start talking about this whole idea about the hydrogen, I think it's more important that we are talking about the green hydrogen. And the green hydrogen, mostly when we looked into this whole side of it, is more of producing from renewable energies. And currently, the scenario is that all these options that we have looked into, that on one side, we have been looking some options. There is a possibility of curtailment of electricity because we have electricity additional capacity available. But at the same time, in some of these seasons, especially in winter, the demand is very low. So can we utilize all that amount of electricity towards some other sources and doing some of this exercise? So we have done this pre-feasibility study on green hydrogen in Pakistan with the support of Asian Development Bank. It was a very comprehensive study, and I think we came up with 13 different options or use cases where they can be deployed, it can be implemented. In another ways, we are very lucky that in Pakistan there are two important dimensions to it. Like, can we in most of the cases, the storage especially in Kerala in salt caverns, it's something that is available. Compared to Pakistan in other countries, storage may be a challenge. Secondly, there can be the fuel mix that how we can add into this whole green hydrogen along with our natural gas. So blending is possibility that we can explore. But, and I think in some other cases, in some other countries, this has already been experimented, and then we can see that that is one of the successful cases. So if we look into this side of, I mean, more of a supply side, it's how we can generate it, and then how we can store it. And I think there are some challenges with regards to transportation, export of it, and these are some of these challenges. The question then next comes into when it comes with what will be the offtake? Like, who will take this green hydrogen? Compared to the green hydrogen is comparatively expensive. Maybe $7 currently the market rate is, but with a reduction in prices of electrolysis and electrolyzers, the prices are coming down. And then there's more mass scale technologies coming up. So it seems like that this will be further reduced. So there will be sort of a break even when this technology will be automatically picked up. We definitely see in European countries, in Japan, in South Korea, in other countries, even in China and others, that this is already being utilized in transport sector. And we can see the fueling stations with the green hydrogen are available. So if we look into that hydrogen as a fuel source, especially when you talk about the green hydrogen, so the future is that that will be the backbone of the energy sector. And with the reduction in prices of solar panels and some of these hype in whatever we are seeing improvements in the renewable energy, I think that will also provide us a way that we can produce green hydrogen, we can store it or maybe transport it. Already in Pakistan, for example, we are seeing a lot of the fertilizers are being produced, and we need hydrogen to produce ammonia. And similarly, in other sectors, in some of these sectors, there are maybe smaller chunks, but there is a demand for green hydrogen. At the same time, globally, there is this sense, for example, Japanese have introduced that they will import or procure 21 billion US dollars green hydrogen. So this is basically a demand push, like how we can ask for more, that the country should start working on it. And in this region, especially maybe Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and some of these other countries, there is this extensive work going on, like how to produce more of the green hydrogen. So looking into this whole aspects, like globally, what are the trends? What are our needs? And how we are seeing our energy sector with the depletion of natural reserves, especially natural gas. So that is one side of it. Like in a country context, these sources maybe at this moment are not making a sense. And earlier, that was the same thing that happened with solar. But I think feed-in tariffs, especially the policy lever used by German government, helped the whole world that it scaled up. So I think we also see maybe in some cases, some of these policy levers can help us to bring the green hydrogen price at par with some of these others, energy resources, and then we can look into it. I think that's the price that takes me to this another part of this, which is that how we can look into the CBAM part. I think it's primarily all about that we have this broader NDC's commitment, and then we are seeing, especially from some of these exporting countries, the carbon leaks and how we are going to fix them at a granular level. So I think this is more of moving from that side, that how the carbon leaks can be fixed, and the CBAM mechanisms revolves around this whole aspect of fixing it at a very granular level. And I think, given the nature of green hydrogen, this is ultimately be a source that how the whole accounting mechanism at a different tiers that can be addressed. I think we have already seen, especially from our colleagues from the steel sector, pointing out that they are seeing this kind of a trend, and the costs are going to 750 US dollars. So that how that can be affected, and I think that numbers will definitely make sense once we are moving into that direction. So overall, I think the CBAM is, to me, is more like, resource allocation. And from one countries, which are sort of not taking so much care of like how they're producing the products, and they are energy intense, and moving towards those countries and sort of redistribution of resources where the countries can produce products which are less energy intense, less carbon intense. But I think there is a question mark at the end of the day that ultimately, with this kind of mechanisms, there is always a lead capture, because those countries who have already have the economies of scale, those countries who have already, a lot of the units, things are in place, and then on top of it means they can easily procure more technologies. Compared to them, the developing countries who actually are into this phase of struggling and trying to grow their exports, I think they will be stuck with this dilemma that in the absence of technology transfer, what they will look into. So this is the next, I think, some of these aspects that just putting a CBAM in place, it also requires that the countries who, under the common and differentiated responsibilities, they have to support these developing countries to look into these aspects like this elite capture and technology transfer should be addressed properly for developing countries. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Definitely, the future is green hydrogen, but we also look into the global trends and global standards to stand in the global market as well, and also looking into the national needs of our country. With that, I would request Dr. Nabil Amin, who is the head of compliance, DG Textile, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, Government of Pakistan. So, sir, given the challenges Pakistan textile sector is facing, such as foreign exchange crisis, shortage of energy supply, high operational cost, inflation, low purchasing parity, what strategies we have in action and what plans can be proposed for them from the Ministry of and government to ensure sustainability of Pakistan textile sector while enhancing its competitiveness in conjunction to CBAM?
Thank you very much for inviting, and thank you for giving us a chance. Let me first of all introduce National Compliance Center. This would make it very clear to the audience that the government has already taken up an initiative in terms of National Compliance Center, which will be looking after the capacity building of our SMEs, our major sectors who are exporting, and also the sectors who are importing, because this is one of the points that I think has been not addressed, that any raw material, if you are even asking for it is recycled or it has been used for informal sector, that would also uh, count towards the carbon accumulation and all that. So you have to be very careful that everything that you're importing and everything that you're exporting, that needs to be compliant against all the standards that the different directives are looking after, and the different legislations are coming up in terms of different kind of agreements all over the globe. So already there have been many initiatives have been highlighted already from the Minister of Climate Change and Minister of Energy. Same is the case with the organizations that we are doing. One of the major challenges that we have here in Pakistan is our SMEs. We have informal sectors, we have formal SME sectors as well. Like if you go to the Sialkot sector or some other cities where it is well structured, but even then they are facing this kind of problem of, like you have already rightly said, the financing is an issue, the technology is an issue, the transfer of technologies is an issue, then the understanding of all the CBAM mechanism and the compliance is an issue. So just to dig out technically how we can, instead of having all other big initiatives, we can build up something to reduce the carbon emissions. One of the important things is the productivity. We have looked after the bigger players like Interloop and other industries. They're already working on lean manufacturing and low waste and everything they're working in, which reduces your energy and everything. And, there's no rework. But when you come up within their supply chain, tier 1, tier 2, till tier 5 in textiles, you have all different kind of supply chain SMEs and informal sectors who do not have that, they're not well equipped, they are not well educated about the compliances. So anything, I was just reading out a CBAM document a few days back, and they had written that what are the consequences? One of the consequences was like naming and shaming of the buyer, of the manufacturer, if they are not compliant against the rules and regulations. So compliance at every stage. Now, what we can do as a National Compliance Center and what we have planned out is that we'll be looking after the policy gap analysis and suggesting different ministries and different organizations to, cover those gaps, and in support with all our stakeholders. We'll be pulling up the SMEs, and we'll be looking after their training, their awareness sessions with our major stakeholders. Like we have GIZ here, we have different other players in the market. And then we're also looking after a centralized kind of a digital portal for compliance, digital passport to be issued to the companies with a third-party audit support from the government. In future, yes, we might be going towards building our own standards and filling the gaps for the national standards like different countries have already done, and also looking after maybe building up the capacities in terms of some financing to support SMEs to build up their capacities as the compliances.
Yeah, thank you so much for highlighting the role of National Compliance Center at Ministry of Commerce and highlighting such initiatives you are doing. That's a great job as well. So now, because we have Dr. Khalid Wareed at STPI, he has also done a policy brief on the carbon border adjustment mechanism. So, sir, how CBAM is going to impact the industrial demand in energy sector in Pakistan, if you would highlight some points on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Saleha. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, this is very pertinent question. CBAM has this multifaceted, multi-pronged consequences. It is also a challenge, upcoming challenge, and also an opportunity. If you take energy sector of Pakistan, particularly the power sector, If you see the demand is decreasing in Pakistan, when you see it from the lens that there is 50% demand coming from residential consumers, and due to increased tariff, these residential consumers are shifting towards decentralized solutions such as solar rooftop, and demand has decreased if you compare it with previous year around 13 to 15%, and causing capacity charges to increase in per capita terms. Uh, if you see it in the context of CBAM, this decreasing demand phenomena or dilemma for Pakistan's national grid, the solution lies in increasing more industrial demand for the national grid, bringing more industry to the grid. Now, for the industries, the problem, existing problem is that the industrial tariff for electricity is higher if you see it in the context of regional competitiveness and for the export sector industries. And if there is CBAM and there is another sort of cost associated with the industries in terms of CBAM fee, and national grid is uh, carbon intensive. If you see this exposure index developed by World Bank, uh, the CBAM exposure index, if you see that, you will see that Pakistan's national grid is 1.4 times more carbon intensive as compared to European Union's grid, which means if a commodity that is being exported to European Union uh, cost like 100 euros, after CBAM, it will cost 140 euros. So if there is a delta of 40 euros added to that exporting cost, export competitiveness will decrease, and industry would not be part, would not want to be the part of national grid. So the goal of power division would not be fulfilled because industry would not join the grid, will not come on the grid, and captive solution might be encouraged in that regard. So what Pakistan needs to do is, particularly to solve Pakistan's power sector crisis, we need to take care of CBAM, because if we want to increase the industrial demand, we need not only to reduce the tariff, but we need to reduce the tariff in such a way that that is uh, less carbon competitive and more sustainable in future. So there should be an integrated approach where these jargons such as CBAM, CTBCM, competitive markets, they are sort of integrated and well understood in a holistic manner, whole of sector approach. In that way, we would be solving Pakistan's dilemma. I always call it as economy, energy, and environment, the three E's of Pakistan. In that way, we can sort of better understand this. Second thing is that this is also an opportunity for Pakistan. Opportunity in a sense that Pakistan already being a labor intensive country, labor abundant country, the labor rates are low. We can attract more foreign companies to open their production facilities in Pakistan. Second, if our grid is cleaner as compared to our peers and our rival countries, maybe we can attract more and more foreign companies in Pakistan to start their facilities so that they can export to European Union, particularly in terms of data centers, in terms of textile industries, and technology intensive industries. So it is on one side a stick approach, second that it is also an carrot approach. Third thing that I would like to highlight is that maybe we need to look into inclusivity more in terms of CBAM, because CBAM would create problems particularly for developing countries, because it would affect their export competitiveness. Uh, in national level, it will also create some inclusivity issues as well. For example, the big players, particularly in textile sector, they currently they know that how to report, what are different mechanism, how to decarbonize. They have finances, they have investments, they have their own captive power plants. If they want to, they can install their captive power plants and go off grid and bring more renewable energies to their production facilities. But the inclusivity problem rises for the small and medium enterprises, because they would be the one who would get burnt of this CBAM initiative. So we need to bring these small and medium enterprises in such a way that there is more hand-holding, a national compliance center, that would be an excellent thing. Dr. Saab has mentioned it. So what I think we need to sort of bring forward is more collaborative, more integrated approach where different ministries, different divisions, they're talking to each other and building a holistic uh, whole of a sector sort of policy so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. You highlighted very pertinent point that industrial demand should be increased. And definitely without the business case for the industries, for the SMEs, there is no future for Pakistan. So we have to look into the business case for the industries. If we look into the standards or some initiatives like NDCs or we are going for the COP. So moving towards the COP and also we have to, pledge some targets and we have to we are going to, in Pakistan, we are going to update it, our NDCs, and we are going to submit it in the next year, probably. So when we're looking into the industry, especially when FOSAB is here and also Amreli from representation from Amreli Steel. So any policy recommendation, key policy recommendation, for looking into the NDC's perspective and also when we are going towards the COP, what collaborative or collective stance from the industrial sector would be we need one policy recommendation. So first from the FOSAB. So FOSAB, over to you.
Thank you very much. So I think, again, there are two aspects from industrial perspective, because right now we are talking about the CBAM text, because specifically the Interloop, we are working with all the top brands, both in Europe and the US. So maybe for us, CBAM is a little later thing, but what the direct impact we are facing right now, it's again because being a major contributor in the brand supply chain. So right now they are asking us to share all the data related to the carbon footprint or the water stewardship. So this is the first thing that right now we are facing, that we need to show that what is our carbon footprint and how we can start an initiatives to reduce the carbon footprint of the product. So without going into the CBAM, still we are just facing the pressures first to calculate, then share all the carbon footprint associated with that product, and then definitely they will ask us to reduce the carbon footprint. So regarding the policy matter, I think the biggest thing we are facing is definitely the, as I said earlier, it's all about the carbon accounting. Right now, we do have our own energy generation. We can calculate easily within our system, but most of the energy which is coming from the grid, definitely we need some interventions, how we can convert that portion of the energy to the renewable side. So first thing definitely is against the carbon market, establishment of the carbon market, because definitely if there is no formal policy for that, if there is no formal setup to claim the renewable energy in the grid, definitely we cannot convert that chunk, which is comparatively easier, because we do have a renewable mix in our grid as well. So to effectively
thank you, sir. Actually, we are towards the closing and we are shortage of time. Just a quick policy recommendation from Ismail Saab, you.
Yes. On one side, as we have discussed, CBAM is like a regulatory hurdle for carbon-intensive imports to EU. But I think it can create an opportunity to expand our exports in other sectors. So I think one of the important point for the policymakers is to have a look on a broader canvas and do not focus only to save the existing export, but also take it as an opportunity. And I think research can be done other than steel and other sectors, that what are the other products in which Pakistan can make export in future when CBAM is there. I think this is one of the important point, because we are only focusing that how to save the existing ones. I think we have to focus on the opportunities. We have to open our minds to see the different things, how the landscape is changing. This is the one point I want to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Now I would request Dr. Sardar and Aleem Saab Dr. Saab, so just one quick policy recommendation, then we are towards the closing with Ms. Sobia.
I think policy recommendation basically is that we, at this stage, I think we know the problem. All we need to do is to start taking it step by step. I don't think there is any policy change that is needed. What has already been described, but what we need to do is that we need to, start paying attention to it now. It's not 26 or 2030. And then I mean, it's good that SDPI has initiated this discussion, and Ministry of Climate Change has come out with very clear guidelines also. But as things happen, that we should not forget. So I'm not giving any policy guideline. All I'm saying is that it's a serious issue. It's not too far off. And we all, as a key stakeholders, should review it on a more regular basis and help as much as we can from our respective, perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, I mean, some of my comments earlier, they were also focused on this point that our industries overall, the government definitely have to integrate some of these aspects, and this is for something for good. And I think understanding, integrating into the policies, and then offering, that kind of tariffs, offering that kind of mechanisms to support it and developing the capacity, I think that will be the next step. Thank you.
From our side, from NCC, I would only say that we need to have an integrated kind of policy, and we should not jump from one step to other. Highlighting all the value chain and working on technology transfer, that would be really good. And making every step compliant, that's what I think, and that is missing in all our projects. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. At least at STPI, we are started debating the new initiatives and new topics which are globally discussed and addressed. So for this, we are ending the session, and now I would request Ms. Sobia Becker for the vote of thanks.
Thank you. It's working now. We had a fabulous panel, very representative of policymakers, industry, as well as academia, debating this very important issue. There are three main aspects that came up. Aspect number one is, do we understand CBAM well enough? And this comes both from a policy perspective as well as from an implementation perspective. The second issue that's been highlighted is one of financing. When we've understood it and we want to move towards implementation, where are we going to find the money for this? And then finally, the issue of technology transfer, which can happen within the ecosystem, as we've seen from Aleem's remarks on the MNCs and TNCs that are already working here, and how there's a certain cross-fertilization of ideas that is happening. But what is also very clear is that even before we think of CBAM, because it'll be, we have a few years till Pakistan actually has to be compliant, but how can we already start laying down the conduits for CBAM in Pakistan? And this really starts with ensuring resource as well as energy efficiency across the entire value chain of any industrial operation. And then obviously a policy gap analysis. Energy as a very critical input for production plays a very important role in decarbonizing, which is a prerequisite for CBAM. We have a power sector crisis in terms of the energy, the fact that there's a lot of thermal powered energy on the grid, and how we're going to cope with that. The main takeaways from this session have been decarbonizing the grid as a starting point, having more of a future-oriented export strategy that is very integrated. It looks at the entire value chain. Thank you for that. And then the importance of actually starting now and not really waiting for. So obviously you need public support, which the Ministry of Climate Change as well as the Ministry of Commerce has very kindly assured the stakeholders of this public support. But a lot of it also has to come from within industry itself, because at the end of the day, any improvements in resource consumption, in energy consumption is going to directly translate to an improved bottom line. So with that, I would like to thank our co-hosts, the SDPI. Saleh, you were a brilliant moderator. Thank you for that. And Khalid for your thoughtful remarks. And you've been a fabulous audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it was a wonderful discussion. Now I would request everyone to please come forward for a group photo.